Today on GHC Coffee Break, Trey from Cycle Therapy will be joining me. Get your coffee, we'll be right back.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome to GHC Coffee Break. I'm really excited about my guest this morning, or today. It is Trey from Cycle Therapy. And I understand there's some story there, so I'm going to let you start, Trey, about this story.
Yeah, so the way we came up with the name for Cycle Therapy was I did engineering for 10 plus years, and it was a little stressful, and so I would come home from work and Julie would instantly say, just get on your bike, get out of here, don't come back till you're happy. So it was my therapy for my head, getting my head clear, you know, after a tough day at work. And so then when we decided to open up the shop, it kind of made sense to do the little play on psychotherapy and call it Cycle Therapy.
Oh, I love it. That is a great idea. Because I think whether it's cycling, walking, getting outdoors sometimes is our therapy. And so I love the play on words. That's awesome. From a human service professional, it really fits. So when you said that, I said, okay, we've got to tell the story of how that came about.
Well, and there's a friend of ours in Athens who doesn't own a car. He uses a bike to go everywhere. Unless he has to go to a conference or something like that, then he'll rent a car. And
Wow.
At the end of the day, he saves a ton of money by not having car maintenance. But his daughter, he'll load her up on his bike and take her to daycare every day. And he said that she can just be in the worst mood, very unhappy, grouchy, just the way kids are sometimes. And he'll plop her on the back of the bike, and by the time they get to school, she's super happy. And then he looked at me and he goes, have you ever seen anybody on a bike that's just mad? And start thinking about it, and there's not. You don't see people on a bike that are angry and upset. You never hear about bike rage on the road.
So I'm just standing with my mouth open because in our social structure, I'm just having a hard time imagining having only a bike is my main mode of transportation. And that while I'm thinking that's really cool, I'm sitting there going, okay, I drive 38 miles to work one way. That would kind of be really bad. But if you are in an area where you can, that to me that would be an awesome way of getting around.
Well, and what's interesting is, and what do they call in today's generation?
I don't even know anymore. We had the X, the Ys, and the God who knows what it is now.
Yeah, I can't remember what they've termed the new group, the new generation graduating from college now. But
I can't remember.
They've interviewed apparently, however they do that demographic for different generations, and this next generation is very non-car oriented. I mean, there are a lot of kids now that, and even friends of mine, their kids who are sort of coming of age to get their driver's license, and they're going, I don't want one.
Oh, interesting.
And one particular friend of mine, his daughter goes to University of Alabama, and she hates driving. She will only get in a car if she absolutely has to. And these kids are planning their life to suit that no-car environment. So you're getting a lot more
cheaper.
Yeah, a lot cheaper, a lot less stressful. I mean, you know, if it's raining, you've got some logistics that you just have to plan for. I lived in Atlanta for a while when I was doing engineering, and you know, went for about a year without a car. And I invested in rain gear and a waterproof backpack, and luckily I worked somewhere where I could change clothes, and it worked out really well. When you get kids, then, you know, there are definitely some logistics of just saying, okay, well, I don't need a car anymore. But anyway, this new generation is definitely picking places to live that are not car dependent.
like that.
which is why you're getting Atlanta investing so much money in the Atlanta Beltline
Yes.
pathway there. Birmingham is doing the same thing.
Okay.
They know that they're going to have to. One way to attract that new generation is to give them an infrastructure that's not car dependent, and they're planning for it now.
Well, see, that's smart, and I like that because even where I live, there's really, I mean, I could see riding a bike or walking because of the logistics of where things are. You could do it easily enough, but the danger of being on the road with cars, motorized vehicles, would be a little unnerving.
Well, there's a group called the American Bicycle League out of DC, and they work with federal, local governments on improving bike and walking infrastructures. And there's probably 90% of people that own a bike and would ride more if they felt it were safer to do that. So that's a huge concern. It's most people you talk to here, you can't ride your bike on the sidewalks on Broad Street.
Okay.
So that's against the law to ride your bike on Broad Street or on the sidewalk. But you're not going to get but a very small percentage of people in Rome, I'd say less than 1%, that are going to get in the road and ride down Broad Street.
Right.
So
Yeah, it would be scary to me.
so we've got this path infrastructure in the city that starts at the town green. You've got a total of about 11 miles of trails that sort of branch out from the town green, but you can't ride on Broad Street. So a lot of the businesses really are not feeling that impact of the cyclists that are, and by cyclist I just mean somebody who's riding a bike. They don't have to be in a Superman costume and tights to be a cyclist, but the local businesses on Broad Street really suffer because that group of people cannot get to the businesses.
Oh, that's interesting. Because, I mean, as I was sharing earlier before our show started, I would like to ride bikes more. But honestly, I did not want to have to load my bike. I mean, I know we've got the Steel Over Comic Trail, which is an awesome trail. I haven't been on it, but I've heard a lot of people very positive about it, whether it's walking, biking, running, whatever. But to load it up, I have to have something to load it in, depending on my car, depending on buying a trailer or whatever it happens to be, and to go somewhere when I can get in a car, go to a hiking trail, and I don't have to carry this big
thing around.
Yeah. So I think definitely, we would see a greater utilization of something like this if that structure is provided.
And that's been one of, there's a local group in town called TREAD, which stands for Trails for Recreation and Economic Development. And they do a lot of work in helping the city and county identify projects to connect neighborhoods, connect schools.
I like that.
There's actually a federal program called Safe Routes to School. We had one local elementary school that said, hey, we want to be part of that. So our TREAD folks went out and looked at it, and they're like, there is no safe way to put a kid on a bike and get him to school. So that sort of goes back to the planning stages of where you put schools, where you put your business, and whether those options are available where you live. I've talked to a lot of people who have moved. Rockmart and Cedartown, believe it or not, were not like the meccas that you wanted to move to for nightlife and things like that. But there are a lot of people that have moved to Rockmart and Cedartown because the Silver Comet is right there. And that main obstacle you're talking about, the first thing you have to do is load something up and drive to get there. You lose motivation.
Guilty.
I do, yeah.
Guilty.
I always joke the hardest thing to do about me getting on my bike and going riding is just changing clothes. And if you make it any more difficult where I've got to haul my bike somewhere to go ride, then I'm even less likely to go. So getting the neighborhoods and the schools connected to make that easier. If there are a lot of kids, Berry College, Berry College students, they call it the Berry bubble because they don't want to get in a car and leave campus.
Right.
Or they may not have a car to leave campus. and there's no good infrastructure for them to walk or ride into town. So that's another thing that's being worked on.
Because when you said schools, that just, I think, resonated with me because the city I live in does not have a bus system. Parents have to drop their children off, pick them up. And that's high school, middle school, elementary, the whole shebang. And sometimes it's very awful when you've got one kid over here at the elementary, one kid at the high school or at the middle school, or the combination of stuff.
Yeah.
And even walking, to me, where I know some kids do walk, but to me, when I look at where and how they have to walk, I don't really consider it safe.
Oh yeah.
Motor vehicle wise. I know that it would be really nice, and my grandson will say every now and then, I'll just walk home. No, you're not, because of the way he would have to go, the streets he would have to cross, all of those things that you're talking about. And I think you're exactly right. It's that pre-planning, as you said, the city planning, our county planning before you even get to that point. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about pre-planning now. So how do we kind of move forward?
That's the difficult part is identifying options, whether it's with DOT and new road construction.
Yeah, so elevated or underrated or something.
Yeah, and being able to identify how to sort of retrofit your community to make it, not bike-centric, but to give people options.
Bicycle friendly, at least.
Yeah, and I did meet with some city folks, years ago, and they said, well, we've had a couple of people get hit on bikes, like on Turner McCall, on 2nd Avenue.
Yeah, I can't even imagine riding, I'm sorry, in those areas.
Yeah.
I'm scared I don't even like driving them.
Exactly, yeah. You get on Shorter Avenue, and I like to do this experiment, every day, where I just go the speed limit down Shorter Avenue. But I'm the only one.
I think people are running up your tailpipe.
It's a highway, so even riding on the sidewalk, you've got semis coming by you at 50 miles an hour. There's nothing therapeutic,
No, that would be
doing
stress.
that, So, but the biggest way to make the roads safer and make people feel safer to get on their bike or walk is separating. You got to separate them from traffic somehow, and there are ways to do that, and we just have to be open-minded to make it happen.
Well, the first segment we really concentrated on creating systems, creating an infrastructure. Now, and I guess extra structure.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we have to cut for break for a moment. We can talk more about bicycle safety, the types of bicycles, things like that, because I think it's really important that first we have the infrastructure. But then I think it's going to be important. We have about a minute and a half roughly. But when we come back, to really talk about the different types of bikes. I know for me, like I said, I would love to ride, but part of my problem is back issues, knee issue, getting old issues.
I'm with you.
Yeah, but to me, the safety, I guess, my first concern, and why we hit this first in our segment, was making those places to go without having to load it up, because I just don't. I'm motivated to ride, but I'm not motivated if I've got to do all those different things. You also mentioned weathering.
Yeah.
I actually ride a motorcycle, drive or ride.
Yep.
I can do both. But those are also considerations. And the reason why I purchased one is I thought, well, it'd be better on gas. It would, there was a lot of different reasons. But again, different restrictions. Obviously, and bikes, when we're talking about bikes as in bicycles,
Right.
But motorbikes to me are also very therapeutic. Riding a motorcycle, I can get on it and go the back roads and just feel like the wind in my hair,
Well, I was doing the analogy of the dog having his head out the window. That's kind of what it feels like for us, and you know, it's fun like that.
But with a bicycle, we can do the same thing. So we'll be back in just a minute. Get your coffee and join me with GHC Coffee Break.
I'm transferring to the University of West Georgia.
Columbia University.
Kennesaw State,
UGA, Loyola University in Chicago,
Grambling State,
Shorter University. I'm going to Greensboro College, and we all got our start at Georgia Highlands.
No matter where your educational journey takes you, you can get your start at Georgia Highlands College. Georgia Highlands College. Enroll, engage, excel.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Trey, it's really been fun talking about riding bikes. You know, I mentioned earlier about types of bikes. One of the problems that I have is, as I'm getting older, I have back issues and I have a few other things. And as I call them, the big butt seats and the little skinny butt seats, I have not found one that's comfortable for me yet. I do have a recumbent bike at home for this winter. I thought, well, maybe if I can kind of build up on it, then when the summer comes along, I would be able to transition to a real bike again. So I used to love biking as a kid, even as a young adult. But finding that right bike. So let's talk a little bit about bikes, bike styles, bike seats,
Yeah,
bike handlebars, apparently.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things is getting a bike that fits right, no matter what kind of bike it is. If it doesn't fit right, you won't be happy
And
you won't ride. It's one of those things. I mean, if you get on and you go ride the first time and you ride for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever, 5 minutes, and you come back and you're like, oh man, my back hurts, you know, my butt hurts. I don't get it. I don't think I'll do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's really our job, you know, is to help identify what style of riding somebody wants to do, and then match them with a particular bike. And it can be as easy as somebody coming in and saying, hey, I know what I want this, you know, and we fit them for it, set the seat height right, which is super important. If it's too high, you'll definitely get back issues. If it's too low, it usually hurts your knees. And that's plus or minus an inch, you know, in seat height can really make your ride completely miserable because it's a biomechanic. You know, your body doesn't want to function like you're squatting all the time, you know, walking and squatting or walking on your tiptoes. So that's the bike fit process is very important to make somebody happy. And then seat-wise, there are literally thousands of seats that are out there. And, you know, and that unfortunately is a little trickier sometimes to help people identify what seat works for them. But again, I think the bigger thing is if you find out exactly what type of riding someone wants to do, typically that bike is going to be 90% there as far as the way the part spec is on it, the seat, the handlebars, that sort of help all that just sort of fall into place. But we definitely work with customers and, you know, they come back and say, hey, you know, bike's riding great, but can I try a different seat? And we'll just put another seat on, let them try it. Because it really is sometimes trial and error, depending on how sensitive people are to their butt.
Yeah.
So,
and you mentioned when I was sharing with you my difficulties at times, even the handlebar height apparently is an impact.
yeah, so I mean, if you look at a typical racing bike with the handlebars sort of way out in front of you and down low, they'll have a real skinny seat on them. And part of that is, you know, by design to be as least evasive on your legs, pedaling fast, you know, as possible. The higher your handlebars get above the seat, so say, you know, a racing bike, your handlebars are going to be lower than the seat, but as your handlebars get higher, even level to higher than the seat, your back really, I mean, you can change them as little as an inch height-wise on someone who's not an experienced rider, and they will go, whoa, you must have moved those like 5 inches. And we're like, no, just an inch. And so that little bit makes a huge difference on how much pressure is on your back, on your hands, on your butt. And
See, I wouldn't have really thought about all that.
We had a guy actually come by one day, and he said, you know, he brought his bike in, and he goes, well, you guys take this on trade. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, well, it seems like a good bike for him. And I said, yeah, well, we will, but what do you not like about it?
Right.
And he goes, oh, my back is killing me. My hands are going numb. You know, I just need a new bike. And we said, well, let's try something. You know, so we just moved his handlebars, refit him really for his bike. And I said, just take that, try it out, and let us know how that works. And you could see in his head, he's like, what are these guys doing? I'm trying to buy a bike, and they're wanting to modify mine. But anyway, he went out, came back, you know, a couple of days later, and he goes, totally different.
Wow.
Yeah, he goes, I don't need another bike. That one didn't fit. So we were able to help him be happy with the bike he already had.
And see, that's really neat that you would do that, because a lot of people, I think, like you said, would say, yeah, you know, let me give you this $1,000 bike, you know.
And we're not opposed to that, but
Oh, no, of course
but at the end of the day, you know, I think if we were in a bigger market, we could get away with that, you know. But being in Rome, and as tight-knit as Rome is, you know, our
reputation.
Our first concern has to be taking care of everybody, not necessarily selling something to them.
That's awesome, though. I think it would be nicer if more people and more businesses had that attitude. I don't care if they were Walmart or, you know, whoever.
It's funny because, you know, that guy in particular, he was wanting a new bike, and he may have ended up getting a new bike a couple of years later, but, you know, the point was we kind of educated him on that it's more about fit than the bike.
And I'm looking at the tires on this one in front of us, you know, and it's not is it a 3-speed or what are we?
That one's a 7-speed.
7-speed, okay.
They make that particular one in a single speed, sort of the traditional beach cruiser, a 3-speed and a 7-speed.
And the tires, I've seen some little bitty skinny tires, and I guess those are the racing, or the classical racing. What would this be considered?
It's called like a cruiser tire. You know, what's funny is the trend lately in road bikes, you know, years ago it was like, how skinny can we get that tire?
Right.
And now it's more getting towards, you can go to a bigger tire and really not suffer any rolling resistance penalties. At a certain point you do, but that little extra volume of tire, of air, is that much more cushion. So the skinnier the tire, the harder the air pressure has to be, and then you just end up feeling every single bump in the road, and it's just not that enjoyable. So you can get a tire like this that's slick, it doesn't have a tread on it. You know, you can pump it up enough to go fast and still be comfortable. Okay.
For the recreational rider, that would be something I would probably want to look at.
Absolutely. And there's some other bikes that are called, I mean, this is sort of that traditional ladies frame. They make one that's called almost like an extreme step through. So if you could imagine these bars even lower, so people with hip issues, things like that.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of men that get them because you don't want to have to be a gymnast to swing your leg up over a seat and get on a bike. And so these step-through frames have gotten really popular because you literally only have to, you know, it's less than going up a flight of stairs. Just barely lift your leg up, put it through the frame, and you're good to go.
And we talked about there's some, a tricycle-like kind of bike.
Yeah. So what's bizarre is the number of different bikes that are out there. I mean, it's amazing how many different bikes and bike styles are out there, and it's but you've got, you know, recumbent a traditional recumbent
And that's the one that's like a big tricycle or a funny looking tricycle, right?
can
For
be. It
adults.
has 2 wheels in the front and 1 wheel in the back, and you're literally only probably 6 or 8 inches off the ground.
Okay.
So you're really low. The only issue with those is trying to get up and out of them sometimes because you're so low.
Okay, because I envisioned a one front wheel and 2 back.
Yeah, on the adult trike or recumbents, it's 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back.
Oh.
And you steer it almost like a dump truck or a tractor. So you have 2 handles that you steer like that, and your
Okay.
gears and brakes are on those handles.
Interesting. Yeah, I need to come out to your shop. I'm really excited about that now. And so you probably will get a visit from me. I know that in there we can talk a little bit more about bikes, but we have about 2.5 minutes left. And I know that there's a bike ride coming up, Georgia.
Bike ride across Georgia.
Bike ride across
Yep.
Georgia. Any
that's
information on that?
So that's an annual event. It's been going on for, probably 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. One year it started in Rome, and I think the year it started in Rome, we had roughly 5,000 people in town.
Wow.
And that year in particular, it started in Rome and went up into the mountains, came back down and finished Alpharetta, something like that. But you had 5,000 families, really. It's really more of a family-oriented ride.
How cool.
And they hit a lot of, obviously, back roads. But this year they're starting in Noonan, and instead of sort of going point to point throughout the week, this year they start in Noonan and they go out, come back to Noonan, go out again, come back.
Oh, okay.
So you do little explorations, but you're based out of Noonan.
So is it
for the
like a week long?
Week-long
Okay.
event. And you can, the good thing about that sort of format is you can really sort of tailor your ride to, if you only feel like doing, 10 miles that day, you can just go out 5 and back. If you want to do 100, which is sort of the average.
Okay.
But you take all day doing it. There are kids that do it. And it's not a race, so it's fun, yeah.
And I believe, well, I'm sure people can Google it, but I believe it's coming up in June this year.
June, yep.
June.
And then obviously with May being National Bike Month, I believe in Rome in particular, the week of May 11th is the official Bike to Work week. So
Okay, I may cheat and do a motorized bike. I may ride my motorcycle that day.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we only have a couple of seconds left, but I do want to thank you for joining me today on GHC Coffee Break and Cycle Therapy. Sounds like a great avenue to come and check you out. So
Absolutely.
Get your coffee. We'll be right back.
$7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
Okay, welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. I hope everybody's wanting to go get a bike now. I know I am. So speaking of which, tell us real quick, where is Cycle Therapy?
So we are on Broad Street, across from the Chamber of Commerce and next door to Great Harvest Bread Company.
Okay, now, the last few seconds, I want you to take us out. Name the type of bikes.
Recumbents, unicycles, tandems, mountain bikes, road bikes, beach cruisers, fat tire bikes, motor assist bikes, cargo bikes, quad cycles. There's actually a place in Savannah that has a rolling bicycle bar where I think up to 12 people get on this thing and pedal it while they have beverages through Savannah.
Wow. All right, guys, get your coffee. We'll be back next time on GHC Coffee Break.